So we're going to learn some more power laws. The first one is the exponent of the zero law, and then we're going to learn the power law. What happens when you take a power and put it to the power of something else?
It gets really powerful.
It does get more powerful. You're right. So the first one is the exponent of zero.
No.
Just slide it down a little bit.
Just a little bit.
You notice what I'm doing here as a pattern. 2 cubed, 2 squared, 2 to the 1, 2 to the 0. Do you see a pattern?
Yeah,
What's happening? What? The exponent's going down by 1. So now if we look at what happens when we do 2 cubed, we get 8.
4.
When we do 2 squared, we get 4. When we get 2 to the 1, it's just 2. Do you see a pattern here?
It's going down by 2. It's like halving.
It's halving, or you're dividing by 2, right? Halving is the same as dividing by 2. What happens if I would divide by 2 again? I get, what's 2 divided by 2? 1. 2 to the 0 is equal to 1. And if we kept going with this pattern, whoa. What do you think 2 to the negative 1 would be?
-2.
What happens if you divide by 2 again? What happens if you take 1 and divide it by 2? You get 0.5 or 1/2. Yes.
I feel like 2 to the 0 should be 0 because it's timesing 2 by 0, which means there's nothing being times by anything.
You feel like 2 to the 0 should be 0, but another way of seeing why does 2 to the 0 equal 1? What's 8 divided by 8? 1. What's another way that I could write 8? I could write it as 2 cubed divided by 2 cubed. So 2 cubed divided by 2 cubed is the same as 8 divided by 8, and it's still equal to 1. But now we're going to use our quotient rule. Quotient rule says if you have the same bases, then you can just subtract the exponents. So if I have 2 cubed divided by 2 cubed, I have the same bases, so I should be allowed to subtract the exponents. What's going to happen when I do 3 minus 3?
0.
I get 0. And what's 8 divided by 8 equal to? 1. Now the question is that only work with 2? So let's look at 3's. If you have 3 cubed, 3 times 3 times 3? No. 3 times 3 times 3?
16, 22, 24, 26.
Come on, please, someone say the answer.
24, 26, 25, 28, 24, 22, 81, 21, 71, 20, 22.
Thank you.
Not you.
3 squared
You thought these were written in
is? Oh, I missed it.
I was asking questions that were written down anywhere.
3 to the 1?
I still don't You're underestimating how you were trying
Well,
to
it shows that not everything in the water is a fish.
On this one here,
You got roasted.
guys, so someone was asking, how does it work that this is equal to 1? First of all, you still have to recognize that this is 8 divided by 8. Okay? So you know the answer is equal to 1. Now the quotient rule says if you're dividing and you have the same bases, you can subtract the exponents. So if I subtract the exponents, I get 0. But I already know that this is equal to 1, so that means that 2 to the 0 has to equal 1. Okay? Now if we look at powers of 3, what's the pattern here? Divide by 3. Divide by 3. If you divide by 3 again, you get 1. You divide by 3 again, you get 1/3. So what does the zero exponent law say?
It's always 1.
It's always 1. Anything to the power 0 is 1. 9 to the power 0 is 1. 1,234,567 to the power 0 is 1. Anything to the power 0 is 1, except for this one doesn't make sense. 0 to the 0 isn't 1. It's not 0. It's not defined. You try to type it in your calculator, you'll get an error. It doesn't exist.
0 to the power 0 does not.
Because sometimes in math, there's two patterns that contradict each other. Here's one pattern. 6 to the 0 is 1, 5 to the 0 is 1, 4 to the 0 is 1, 3 to the 0 is 1, 2 to the 0 is 1, 1 to the 0 is 1.
Can you please move?
0 to the 0 is,
Nothing.
according to that pattern, if you kept going on that pattern, you would say, well, since 6 to the 0 is 1, 5 to the 0 is 1, 4 to the 0 is 1, 3 to the 0 is 1, you would think it should be 1 as well. But then we look at another pattern. 0 to the power 6 is 0. 0 to the power 5 is 0. 0 to the power 4 is 0. 0 to the power 3 is 0. 0 to the power 2 is 0. 0 to the power 1 is 0. 0 to the power 0 should be 0. But now we have a problem. We have a problem because one pattern says it should be 1. The other pattern says it should be 0. So what do mathematicians do when they have a problem? They just say, it doesn't exist then. We have a problem, so we'll just say it doesn't exist. You try to type it into your calculator, and you just get an error. It's still 1. Negative 3 to the power 0 is 1. Depends how you write it. It's a good question. Alistair asked, what is negative 3 to the power 0? If you write negative 3 to the power 0 this way, the answer would be 1. If you write negative 3 to the power 0 this way, it would be negative 1. Because the negative would get hidden. You'd do 3 to the 0, which is 1, times the negative, and then you'd get negative 1. So here we have a bunch of questions for you to simplify. Some of them you can do quickly. Some of them you might have to think a little bit. They're not all equal to 1, but a lot of them are.
You want me to write them all down?
It's up to you. You can write as many down as you'd like, or you can try to do mental math and see how many you get. I will give you a head start. There's the answers for the first 3. D is positive 1. Because the exponent is to the whole thing. The exponent of 0, because they're brackets, everything is to the exponent. Whereas in C, you have to do order of operations. What's our order of operations thing? Bed mass. Okay. Bed mass is... So according to bed mass, okay, pay attention because you will make this mistake on a test. According to bed mass, this is negative 2 to the 0 is like negative 1 times 2 to the 0. A negative in front of a number is like negative 1 times that number. So if we're thinking of this as negative 2 to the 0 and there's no brackets, it means negative 1 times 2 to the 0. Order of operations say we need to do the exponent first. The exponent is 2 to the 0. 2 to the 0 is 1. Then we have negative 1 times 1, which is equal to negative 1. In D, we have brackets. So this would be negative 1 times 2 in the brackets, which you have to do first, and you get just -2. In fact, some people would say there's nothing you can do inside of the brackets. The brackets are just holding a negative number. Then we do an exponent, and anything to the exponent 0 is 1. What about a to the 0? 1. What'd you get for f? You get 2, because this is equal to 1 plus 1, just 2. Order of operations here. Do I do 4 times 3 first, or do I do 3 to the 0 first? 3 to the 0 first. So it becomes 4 times 1, which is 4. You could add all this up. 2 plus 3 is 5 minus 5. It becomes 4 to the 0 because you do brackets first, and then that becomes just
1.
and here, this would be 3, and all of this is 4 to the 0. Order of operation would be 3 times 1, which is 3.
Look, it's brackets. Better than how much you can say